All right, well, we can go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and just start sharing my screen. I know you probably can't see it if you said that you're driving. So let me just,
No, I've parked now.
oh, okay, great. See if I can get the screen to share. Okay, there we go. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so today's training is just going over the direct mail sequence. So do you already send direct mail right now?
No, I just getting back into it. That's so this is good for me because I'm just getting ready to get back into um, the direct mail side of things.
Okay, perfect. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. Okay. All right. So pretty much, I'm going to start from the beginning all the way down to the end and kind of answer everything in between. If you have any questions along the way, just let me know.
Okay.
So basically to get started, you'll need your lists. And so we do have a how-to document that goes over the list sources in depth. The one that we really like right now is the exact data vacant list. That's probably one of the top lists that we've ever done. And so we continue to use that one pretty frequently. It's not cheap, but it's very effective. So there are some less expensive lists like Listability and ListSource. And they're also pretty good. So like ListSource, we really like ListSource for multifamilies and apartment buildings. And then Listability, we really like for absentee owners. So they all kind of have their own pros, I guess. But the vacant list, we really like dealing with vacant properties. It makes it a lot easier to buy. And then also if you plan to wholesale, dealing with a vacant house is just going to be a lot easier than dealing with an occupied property. So that's why we target this list a lot. So this page just will go into detail on how to get those lists. So that's where you want to start when you're talking about direct mail. Do you have any questions on the list sources right now, or pretty self-explanatory?
Yeah. Now that page, do you have that page?
Oh
And,
yeah,
and
yeah. So Tyler should be able to give access to this entire how-to, and if you just click on each of these hyperlinks, it'll actually take you over to these pages that I'm referencing here. So like, if you just click on list sources, you will go right to this page here.
okay.
And then the next piece is creating your postcards. So we actually work with Go Big Printing for most of our direct mail. And you can sign up for an account or just go check it out here at this hyperlink. If you just hover over it and click it, it will also bring you to the new page so that you can sign up. And getting the account itself is free. But then obviously once you get to the page to buy your direct mail, that's where you would check out and then pay for your direct mail pieces. And then I do have just a chart here showing the public pricing versus the VIP pricing. So you want to make sure that you do sign up for the VIP account with this link. Otherwise, if you sign up, you can still send direct mail. You just won't get the best pricing. Okay, and then this how-to also just goes through the steps once you're logged into that account on how to actually go and upload your list that you just purchased. So once you're on the home page, you'll see that there's a leads and contacts button, and you'll just hover over that and click upload my list and then follow the steps. So it'll have you name your list, and I usually will just name it. So if it's exact data vacant list, I'll just call it exact data vacant and then put the date. And that way, if I come back later, I know exactly what list it was and when I pulled that list. Um, and then from there, after you upload, you want to make sure it's a CSV file. So if it is an Excel file, all you have to do is open that file and go to File, Save As, and just change it to CSV, and then you can upload it. Then it just walks you through step by step on labeling your fields. So you'll just match first name, last name, and you'll just go through each of these and just match those up. And then once you submit that, it'll take a few minutes. So while this is uploading, you can go back and actually start creating your postcard. And to do that, up at the top, once you have your account, you'll see all of these up at the top of your toolbar. And you can just hover over print. And then there are different types of postcards that we use. So we use the property street view a lot, but then also if you go to the 6 by 4.25 mini, you'll see this third notice postcard here. And those are the two examples of the most recent postcards that we use that do very well. So these are the ones that we would recommend using. And then if you want to mail out the property street view cards, you'll notice that there is an additional selection once you upload your list so that it can just map the property addresses correctly, because it will upload the picture of the house that you're actually trying to purchase. So the property address, it pulls this image from Google Street View, and then it'll put it on your postcard. So there's just an additional step, but it's really simple and it walks you through everything. And then here's just a couple more examples of postcards. And then once you click order, it's going to give you fields like this. So depending on what card you pick, if you pick the third notice postcard, this is exactly how it looks. If you pick a different postcard, it might change it up a little bit depending on what it's asking you to put on the postcard. So just fill in your contact information here up at the top. It'll be your first and last name. The phone number is the phone number that's going to appear on the card. So this is really important. If you want it to be your personal cell phone number, great, go ahead and put that down. But if you want it to be a local phone number that's not your personal cell, you can either use a Google Voice, or we recommend CallRail. CallRail just allows you to assign a different phone number for each campaign. So for example, if I'm sending the exact data vacant list with the third notice postcard, I would create a local phone number in CallRail that's labeled third notice postcard plus exact data vacant list. And what that does is when this postcard is sent out, when people call you in CallRail, it's going to show you that it came from this exact postcard, so that when you go in your Podio and you put in your seller lead, or you go to check your seller lead, you can make sure that the campaign is labeled correctly. And this will help you later on when you're trying to look at your marketing and see what's working. So really important. That's why we really like CallRail, just because we can use multiple phone numbers for multiple campaigns. With Google Voice, you can only really do it for one, unless you have multiple like phone numbers here that you can connect it to. So again, you can just check that out. We also do have a more in-depth training on CallRail. So if you're ever interested, we can make sure to get that to you. And then once you go through and put in your information, so the return address again is going to be you know, if there's any undeliverables or anything like that that come back to you, it will come back to this address here. And then this is all auto-filled information. So depending on what card you pick, this information is already going to be there. You can edit it. We like to leave it, you know, the way it is. Just select the background color yellow, and then just leave everything else the way it is. And you can see also the message here. And again, we'll leave that alone. So you're welcome to change anything you want. It works really well the way it is. So we just suggest leaving it as default. Okay, and then when you name the order, again, I like to just be specific, and we're using the third notice card with a vacant list. So I go ahead and just label it that way and click continue. And then once you click continue, now you can select that mailing list that you went ahead and uploaded in the beginning, and it should be ready for you. So you would just click this drop down arrow here, and at the very bottom, you'll see your list. So when you select that and hit continue, it's going to do the same thing here, but for the property information instead of how previously you did it for the mailing information for the potential seller. This is going to be the actual property information, so the house that you want to buy. So you're just going to match those fields up again, make sure the site address is the property address, and so forth. Now once you're done, you'll see when you click next, it's going to tell you how many records were loaded. And from here you can continue to the proof so that you can just make sure everything looks good before you decide to check out. So this next step here is exactly what it looks like, and you'll see your card. If you click this arrow over, it'll actually go through the first 10 properties that are on your list, and you can review all of the information just to make sure everything does show up the way it should based on your list. And if everything looks good, you'll click the approve and checkout button, and then it'll give you the options here. We usually leave everything for the mailing options as default the way it is. And so you don't really have to worry about it too much unless you do want to change something to your preference. But if everything looks good, you just keep clicking through. And pretty much it just tells you when the mail's supposed to go out. There is production time, so you got to give it a couple of days and that sort of thing. Just really basic stuff. And then when you get to the checkout page, it will give you the charges summary. So you'll see the total number of pieces and then also your charge. So if everything looks good there, you'll just continue until you get to the payment page so that you can check out. Okay, and then how do you mail a portion of the list? So a lot of times, if you're in a really big city and you buy a big list, you know, 5,000, 10,000 names, and you don't want to mail them all at once, you do have the option to break that list up. So how you would do that is under the contacts, you have the option to split it up to 8 times. So splitting your list works with all of the postcards except for the street view. So that is the one catch. If you're sending the street view, you can just break it up yourself. If you only want to send 2,000 of the names, just save an additional spreadsheet with the amount of leads that you want to actually send, or you can, you know, send them all at once. Otherwise, this does work for all of the other postcards, including the third notice. So under your contacts, you'll see that there is the option to click split mailing list. So you can see that here. And then you just choose the list that you want to split. Okay, and then it'll give you, you know, this option here to make sure that you do want to split that and the number of times. So if you have a list of, let's say, 4,000 and you want to, you know, send out a batch of 2,000 at, you know, one time and 2,000 later, then you just split it into 2 groups. If you want to take that 4,000 leads and split it into 1,000 each over, you know, the course of maybe 4 weeks, then you would do the number of splits 4 times. And then just click OK. And then once you do that, your list will have to continue uploading because it's going to break that up for you. And then you will see, once that's finished, your list down here under your contacts, and it will be labeled. So it'll be the label that you gave it. So if this is exact data vacant list, that's what it'll say. Mine just says test, and it'll tell you the order. So 1 of 2, 2 of 2. If you did have more, maybe like 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and so forth. And then some questions that we get is, what does pass or fail mean here in contacts? So when you upload a list, GoBig actually will scrub against the post office to make sure all of the addresses are valid. They also scrub against the NCOA, and that just helps you know, automatically update any forwarding addresses. And then there are 2 things that you'll see. So they're in red here, it just says DPV, but there are also ADDR that you'll run into, and I just put a little description of what those mean. So DPV is the post office basically saying, hey, this one's being flagged, but I still think it could get to where it's going. It may or may not, but you know, it might be worth sending pretty much. So you can just click force to mail. And how you do that is this little checkbox right here under select status, and then force to mail select addresses option right there. And then it will go ahead and put that on your mailing list. Now, ADDR is the post office basically saying something isn't right and I would not mail to this address. You can still choose to push it through, but unless you do, it won't be mailed. Okay, and then after you look at why your addresses fail, you can choose to select all and export your list. So since some people won't be getting direct mail, like if there's a failed address or something along those lines, you can still take that list and skip trace it to get the phone number and emails. And that just might give you a few more leads. If you can't contact them by mailing them, maybe you can reach out through you know, cold calling or texting. Okay, and then you just want to double check that your list was also uploaded with all of the information. If it's incomplete, you're going to have a large number of failures, so make sure all your columns have, you know, the first, last name, all of the information for the property and the mailing address. And then another big question is pretty much just the logistics of how to send the direct mail. So how many postcards should I mail? What do I do after I mail, and that sort of thing. So we're going to go over that right now. Are there any questions up to this point that I can answer?
I'm following with you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'll just continue then. Let me know if you have any questions. So with the first question, how many postcards to mail? Starting out, we recommend, if you're just starting out with direct mail, just to start with 500 a week. until that initial list is gone. So if you get a list, let's say of 2,500 names, and I use that number because that's the minimum number that Exact Data will send. So just start with 500 a week. And then once that list is gone, cycle back through it. Use the split feature if you need to, and you want to break it up into separate weekly mailers, or you can just go back each week and upload 500 at a time. Totally up to you. But I would start small and just see what you have to work with once those leads start coming in. If you're in a bigger area and you've done direct mail before, you can bump that up. So we frequently will do thousands of pieces of mail a week, but we've been doing this a really long time and we do get a lot of calls. So unless you are able to handle the leads that come in, I would just start small and work your way up from there. That also gives you the ability to work any kinks out and just make sure that your process is good before you have a ton of leads coming in. And then what do you do after the first mailing? So you sent out your direct mail and now you're just waiting. So you're going to start receiving calls in about a week or two after you ordered. Like I said before, it takes probably 3 to 5 days of production time for them to get the cards ready. And then they send those over to the post office and get them mailed out, which takes probably another 3 to 5 days to actually reach the person. So I just give it about a week or two and you should start seeing leads come in. You can either take the calls yourself, if you're starting small and you don't really have a big team yet, or you can have a call center. We use Answer One, which is now known as Nexa, to take our incoming calls. Or if you have a VA, that's a great place to start too, is just having your VAs take the calls and fill out the lead sheet. Always make sure that you test any number you use on the postcard prior to mailing. So what I do is after I have my proof, when I'm reviewing it, no matter what the number is on that postcard, I take it and I dial the number and I make sure my call center answers. So even if it's your own personal phone number, just literally pick up your phone and dial that number just to make sure you didn't miss a number or replace the number. It's totally good. You don't want to send out a bunch of direct mail and realize later that you messed the number up and that's why you're not getting any leads. So just make sure everything's good. If you have a call center, this will also help for quality control. Make sure they're taking those calls the way they're supposed to be. And then once the leads start coming in, the next step would be to screen the leads to make sure they're a lead you actually want to work. So if there's no equity, if it's in an area you don't want to buy in, those sort of things, you can just kill the lead. You don't even need to spend any time on it. But if it is, a really good lead, it's worth pursuing. You want to call that lead back and then arrange a walkthrough appointment to check out the condition, get photos. And then once it's a property that you can either buy or wholesale, negotiate the price and get it under contract. So that would be the steps after you actually send your direct mail. And then how many times should you mail to the same people? So we suggest sending mail to the same list 6 times before retiring the list. And when I say retiring, we still keep the list. We actually use Property List Manager to upload all of our lists. So we never lose any leads. But after 6 times, that's enough times where if somebody hasn't responded, you probably need to maybe hit them a different way. So like text them or cold call them, that sort of thing. I wouldn't keep sending direct mail to the same list after the 6th time. So it's best to rotate also. So if you break your list up, let's say you have that, 4,000 leads again. You don't necessarily want to send all 4,000 week 1 and then week 2 send the same 4,000 again. You don't want to do that. You want to break your list up so that it gives a little bit of time in between the person receiving your mail to get another mail piece. So that it's just a gentle reminder. We don't want to really, harass people too much. So if you have, 4 list pieces, let's say 1,000 each, you can maybe send 1,000 pieces week 1, the next 1,000 week 2, and so forth. And then when you get to, you ran through your whole list, start with the list you sent in week 1 again, and you can do that up to 6 times. If you see, maybe even if you're, 3 times into it and you're not getting any leads at all, but you did, the first and second time, so it's not a list problem. It's just, it's been sent so many times, you're not getting any leads. You're more than welcome to stop. You don't have to keep sending it up to 6 times. I just would not recommend doing it any more than 6 times. Okay, so you can stop as early as, 3 times if you're just not getting any leads, and then use a new list. Okay, and then what to do when you exhaust your first mailing list. So you're all done, you've sent it out as many times as you can, you'll want to buy a new list and repeat the process. So same exact thing, just start new. buy a new list from the same list source with all new leads. So, stick with the vacant houses and keep doing it that way. Or you can, try something different, move over to listability absentee owner. Totally up to you. Just make sure you create your campaigns so you can track your marketing and see what's working. And then we all get people who call us upset and don't want to be mailed anymore, or say add me to your do not call list or remove me from your list, whatever it is. So if somebody contacts you and they say they want to be removed, make sure that you do this as soon as you can. First of all, you don't want to waste money. If this person is a motivated seller and they're basically telling you. But second, people get really mad, and you just don't want to deal with that constant calling. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can remove them from all of your lists. If you have a database like Property List Manager, you can go in and opt them out and put them on your do not call list. So if you ever pull any list from there again, they will not appear on it unless you specifically check the box to receive all the do not calls. Okay, and then you want to make sure you opt them out of your mailing list. So if you're using the Go Big printing system, you can go here, and this is a clickable link, and you can actually put in their information so that anytime you add a new list to your Go Big account, Go Big has already opted them out and they will not continue mailing to them ever again. Okay, so just be sure you want to use this option. The only downside is if someone does sell a house down the line or they move, even if it's a different owner, they're opted out. So that property will not receive any mail pieces again. But it's worthwhile to do if people are getting upset and want to be removed. And that's just what this looks like. Really, really simple. Your information here, and then the recipient information and their mailing address. And then for the undeliverables or returned postcards, so just like I said earlier, just because it didn't actually reach the person by mail doesn't mean you can't contact them to still try and buy their house. So one of the things that we like to do for undeliverables is we'll scan in the returned postcards and we'll send them to our virtual assistant. And what they do from there is they actually keep track of them on a spreadsheet. And so they'll take that list and skip trace it when there's enough names on it or after a certain amount of time, just so you're not doing, one-offs every other day. Make sure you get back all of the undeliverables for maybe a batch of your mailing and then do this. And then we just contact them via text or cold calling. Okay, and then we use Data Finder, or if you have a Sherpa account, you can skip trace. So those are the two skip tracing companies that we like to use for our lists. And the link to the scanner we included here. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, this is a clickable link and it'll take you over to the scanner that we use to scan in all of our postcards. And so that's pretty much the rundown of the process on sending direct mail. Do you have any questions? I know I went through that kind of fast. There's a lot of information.
Yes. So you're saying, yeah, I've sent direct mail out many times before, but so the 500 is, sending out 500 a week is just basically for volume purposes, or what would the 500 a week, or why would you suggest the 500 a week?
That's pretty much to get started. So what it does is a lot of people, if they haven't sent out direct mail or maybe they're getting started again, it just allows you to kind of build a process. You can follow our process, of course, and that's what we hope that you do. But it takes a little bit to get in the groove of it and make sure everything's working the way it should, that you know who you're sending the leads to, if you're going to be working the leads, just to work out the little things inside your own business. So when we say 500 a week, all we're saying is just kind of start small to make sure you have everything worked out before you send out a lot of pieces of mail and get overwhelmed if maybe something didn't go right or that sort of thing. So if you have everything worked out and you're ready to go, definitely start bigger. Like I said, we send thousands of pieces of mail at a time, and if you're equipped to handle the leads that come in from that, by all means, you can go ahead and start there too. But we always just suggest starting small and just working your way up. So that's the reason for the 500. There's really no other reason other than just working your way up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and you said that this document is is it in any of our courses?
Yeah. So I'll make sure. You know Tyler Smith, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So he has access to all of this, and I'll make sure it should be already in your course. But anytime we go over this, I do always get that question, and I think if you can't find it, definitely let us know, and we'll make sure either to put it in there or to direct you exactly where it is so that you can have access to it. But yeah, you'll definitely have access to all of this information here.
And how about the call rail? You mentioned about the call rail training, because I used call rail in times past, but like when I was sending out direct mail before, I think it was redundant because I would send out per zip code. Every zip code I would have a different number, tracking a different number. But I think now as I've been going through the course, it's more so of not just for direct mail, but like having one number for direct mail, one number for like my bandit signs. If I do bandit signs, another number for a different number for each form of marketing. Am I correct?
Yes, and actually you won't just have one number for each of those things, or at least for the most part. Like direct mail, for example, if you have one campaign like the third notice postcard and the vacant list, that would be one number. But if you switch postcards and maybe start using that vacant list for the street view, you want a different phone number. So I just pulled up mine here. I don't know if you can see it right now. This is a list of all of our campaigns that are linked to phone numbers. So you can see our third notice postcard with the various list. And this basically just lets us know. So if you say, hey, like what's working right now? And actually I do have that for our last couple of campaigns. I deleted everything else just to make it easier to read. But you'll see here our third notice listability, list source and vacant, street view with the same list, listability, vacant, and absentee. I have all this information here. So I have the campaign cost, the total sent, the response rate, which is huge. This is what we really like to look at, and then the closing percentage. So the only way you can get these these numbers here, the KPIs, is if you're able to actually break it down by the campaign. So if you only have one campaign, one phone number for your whole direct mail, but you're using different postcards and different lists, you're not going to know what postcard or what list is working unless you're able to track that. And so that's the main reason we like CallRail, is because we can do a separate phone number for literally each campaign that we do.
Yes. Okay.
Great question.
Yeah. Okay. So so I'm basically ready to dive in again on this direct mail.
Awesome.
I've been doing a lot of cold calling and stuff, but direct mail in times past did get me some good results. So I need to really pick it back up.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely, if you haven't tried the exact data vacant list, I would start there. It's a really, really good list, and we've been using it for a while and continue to use it just because it does so good. And then again, if you're going to use a postcard, either one of these are really good. You can maybe rotate these. So that's another thing when you're sending out direct mail. If you're sending them out, for that first whole month, you're going through the list. When you pick it up and send out the second time, so like let's say you use Google Street View for that first rotation, the first 4 weeks when you're using that brand new list, but then you go through your second round, then you can maybe try the third notice postcard. This actually gets a lot of attention, good and bad. We get really high response rate. Some people, it doesn't say anything. It does say that we need to talk to you about your property. It doesn't say anything about wanting to purchase it. So a lot of people freak out thinking it's, something's wrong, but it gets calls coming in, which is the main point of direct mail. And then you have them on the phone and you can kind of go from there. So this one will actually, say that you're interested in buying the house. So I would maybe go street view first and then just, throw that third notice card down the line after you've mailed to the people a few times.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Do you have any other questions that you can think of?
No, I think that's it for me right now.
Yeah, and it looks like you're the only one that hopped on today. So happy Friday, huh? Everybody's
same here.
going to the beach.
Yeah, I guess so. Friday, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I'll definitely make sure Tyler has access to this so that you guys have access. And if you need anything, just let us know and we can definitely get it for you.
Okay. All right. Sounds great.
All right. Have a good weekend.
All right. You too. All right.
Bye.